Are you recording?
Of course.
Okay, great. So what were the notes that you sent me? Do you want me to read them out, or do you want to read them out?
I'll read them out. I mean, so I had an idea of how to start this because we got cut off at the end of the last one.
Yep.
So I want to carry on. So we're going to have the most complicated podcast lore of any podcast.
Right.
Because obviously we started with our first conversation being episode 0.
Yeah.
Our last conversation is going to be episode 2A.
Great.
And this is going to be episode 2B.
Brilliant.
Because it kind of, we need to finish off what we were talking about before. And there's a little bit more on compression expansion that I wanted to get to. So yeah. So you look, podcast 2B notes.
I know, I did notice that, and I was just like, what does he mean? But yeah, great.
So maybe we should come back to that, because otherwise we'll be jumping around a little bit.
Okay.
Because I want to kind of flow on from the end of
Yep.
the last conversation. Now, I actually haven't listened to it.
Now, yeah, I was going to say,
properly.
have you listened to it? Because I haven't, and the conversation ended, and then I went straight into 4 hours of work. So
Yeah, so it's just gone.
so
from
it's
your
gone.
brain.
Yeah.
Well, so but the last thing that we talked about properly, or the last sort of note that was mentioned, is this idea of even if everything we're saying is wrong, why would we, as an industry, refuse to try to do better? Why not even try to do better? It's one of the things that annoys me about the human race in general, where at every stage of every endeavor throughout all of human history, we've always been like, yeah, no, I think we've pretty much worked out the big pillars. We're pretty much there. And every generation of human has thought that about everything. And we're always fucking wrong.
Yeah.
So
And I suppose
we're
not,
stupid.
yeah, and not just in the big stuff, even in like life. We just get to a point where like, this is comfortable. I think we'll stay here.
Yeah, I think we'll stay here. And
yeah.
I hate that within the industry. This idea, so we've got like the group of people who are like, they're really conservative about strength and conditioning. And they're like, yeah, we basically know everything. And there's things like, there's no new exercises. And maybe that's kind of true, that there's nothing new, but there's different ways of putting it together. I think that's where it like needs attention. And we talked about this in the first one, about how we can just do better in terms of creating the benefit without the consequence of what we inflict on people with a lot of our strategies.
Yeah.
And the fact that people aren't curious about doing better. So this was kind of the point that I wanted to lead into as a conversation, is do those people, the people who are still adamant that the best way to train is squat, bench, deadlift. You see it a lot from young coaches, which is fine. Like, in my opinion, they're naive, and give it a couple of years and they'll start seeing people struggle and fall apart a little bit more consistently.
Yep.
And then maybe they'll reconsider, or maybe they'll be willfully blind to it for years. Because then the other group of people who are still very, very strongly in the squats are the best way forward, they're hilarious because they're broken all the time. Like they just career from injury to injury to injury. They have 6 months off here, a year off there, and then they come back and they're like, look, I can still do it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not surprised you can still do it because you're an animal and that's cool.
Yeah.
But did you need to do that to yourself in the first place?
And I think when it comes to, for a coaching perspective, is that they're not going, why is it happening? They're just going, it's just part of it.
It's just part and parcel, yeah.
It's accepting it. Like, they've already accepted that that's going to happen. It's like, well, you don't have to be injured.
Yeah.
Like that's not, we shouldn't be living injured, or we shouldn't be living in pain or discomfort or uncomfortable.
It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
That we're so ready to accept that. I mean, that's the case in medicine as well. Like, we accept, like, yes, I've got to take a few pills the rest of my life, or I've got this autoimmune condition that's come out of nowhere, and it's like, yeah, it's just normal. My neighbour's got it, my dad's got it, my cat's got it, and it's like, right, okay, but do you not think maybe there's an environmental link that's just creating all this pathology?
Let's have a think, shall we? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And yeah, like, there's just loads of frustrations along those lines. So it would be dumb and foolish of me to say, I've got the model that is going to keep everyone injury-free forever. It's going to mean that no one ever gets hurt ever again.
Yep.
Obviously, that would be bullshit. Why can't we aim at that, though?
Yeah.
Let's aim at that.
Yeah,
even knowing that we'll probably never get there,
Yeah.
we can. The closest we can get is surely the best possible product.
Yeah. And I have found, even with exercises that I have coached that are from your model, ones that I've learned from you, is that sometimes if I'm not coaching them 100%, people can pick up a little, ooh, or a compensation here or there. And yeah, it doesn't just come down to like, this is the model and this is how it is. It also comes down to the way of coaching and the understanding, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the strategy.
And the strategy of and which way you enforce it.
Because people will move with the compensations that they've got, regardless. Like they will have their strategies for things, and that's what they'll use for whether it's a squat, whether it's a clean, whether it's strongman training, whether it's bodybuilding, or whether it's quote unquote functional stuff. They'll use those strategies over and over again.
Yeah.
And I guess one thing I think about is like, I was thinking the other day, how many of my clients would I consider to be end game like movers in terms of my model? Who are the people that I can give any exercise to and they'll move the way that I want them to move without any prompting? And I came up with like 3 or 4 maybe names. And those are people who are literally never injured. And I can give them crazy stuff to do.
Yeah.
And they're just fine all the time. And like, they're just never hurt. And then there are people who are kind of like, maybe like halfway there. They're much more resilient than they were, but they still pick up a little niggle here and there.
Yep.
And then obviously I've got powerlifters who still work with me, and I think of they're like ticking time bombs. So even though, like I work with people who, I work with difficult cases. That's kind of my niche.
Yeah.
People who are so consistently injured that they can't get on with any form of training, or people who have just been in pain, even who aren't training, so like arthritis patients. Like I had one lady come to me, she kind of peripherally knew who I was through powerlifting. She'd done a bit of powerlifting back in the day. Her coach knew of me really more than she did and recommended she come to see me. She'd been to see a physio. I think she was 50s. She could have even been late 40s. And the physio had basically told her to avoid all knee flexion exercises. So it was like, okay, so that's squats, lunges, cycling, rowing, step-ups,
The
like going
stairs
up
at
and down the
home.
stairs.
Yeah.
And she'd literally been told that she kind of can't bend her knee, and then was discharged.
Okay.
What's she supposed to do for the rest, like the next 60 years of her life?
Just wait to die.
Yeah. And that's, she was like, she came to me like feeling pretty desperate, like, I don't know what to do because I've been told this and I can't really argue it because everything that I do with my knee really hurts. And then the session 1, if you're interested in what we did,
Please do.
we did the foam roller wedged scorpion squats,
Yep.
which was completely painless for her. So day 1, I didn't have to do anything or manipulate her or do anything. I just gave her that exercise with that constraint, completely painless. And she was like, oh, wow, I can feel my quads working and my knee doesn't hurt. I'm like, cool, that's the start.
Yeah.
And then we did wall bridges as well. So
Yeah.
she's working both sides of the knee with 0 pain because we're doing kind of what I call quasi-isometrics.
Yeah.
Because the knee's not moving in space, but we're moving around the knee.
Yeah.
So we're kind of creating that we're creating the movement that we want to create, but we're not having to do it actively. Here's another quick example. This would be great for the YouTube audience. Instead of moving my head to the side to try and alleviate like a stiff neck, I can do it much more gently by moving my body, keeping my head still. And so if I do that rotation, kind of pull my shoulder in front, like so shoulder to chin at either side, I'm getting this exact same motion, but with way less tension. And that's kind of what we were doing. Because the intent of the physio would have been good in the sense that I want you to strengthen up your quads.
Yeah.
But all of the exercises, all of the methods that she would use to strengthen quads were too painful for her. So then it was like, well, I guess that's why you're discharged, because I have no tools in the toolbox that are going to do the thing that I need you to do. So then we give her those scorpion squats, and it's like, okay, now we can actually get your quad working and stronger, if we want to use that word. And that's going to open the door to another exercise. So then we can do like a cable split squat, where again, we're pretty static. The weight shift is backwards, which is a good decompressive way to start. And then you just kind of build up, and then suddenly we're in a situation where, oh, cool, we can pick any quad exercise now, and we can get your knees moving pain-free. And that's a better way to spend the next 60 years of your life than just waiting to die, as you said.
Waiting to die.
So that kind of brings me back to like my main question from this little conversation arc, which is, are these people who are defending squats and deadlifts so staunchly, are they naive? Are they willfully stupid? Or are they actually just blind to the alternatives? Because a big thing that Naudi from Functional Patterns goes on about, which was something else we talked about in episode 2A, is that they kind of get lumped in with a lot of the other functional bollocks. Because their whole thing is, how do we maximally stimulate the body? And their stuff is wildly challenging. The amount of tension in an FP chamber sequence is unparalleled in anything else I've ever tried, you know, including a 600-pound deadlift, you know.
Yeah.
So, but there's loads of stuff that you see that from an uneducated point of view looks kind of like functional patterns, but it's just, there's no stimulus. There's nothing going on that's noteworthy or challenging to the body.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that stuff is pointless. And when FP gets lumped in with that, I'm like, this is a lazy argument or like a naive perspective.
Yeah.
So, yeah, are people just not aware of that alternative existing?
I mean, I wasn't when I started. Was I potentially looking for something else? Probably not, because I was so early on in my career. I knew that the stuff that I had been doing and was doing wasn't working, which is why I came to you in the first place. And similar to your client who couldn't do anything with knee flexion, I was told by a doctor, maybe rugby isn't for you because of my shin splints, which is brilliant. After I'd been to see countless physios and God knows what. And now I don't have shin splints, which is wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think there is an element of, I think we've said it already, we're drowned by all the shit on social media, all the influencing rubbish. And
there's so much of it that it is quite easy to think everyone who's doing something that's different to me, and I'm getting quite good results, everything that's different to that is bollocks. And I can lump it all into one bucket and just discard all of it, which is efficient but lazy and inappropriate, because there are just gems out there that the industry as a whole is not considering.
Yeah, for sure.
I think this is why WEC is starting to break through a little bit, because people are saying like, you know what, coiling my core, I can actually see how that translates, and it feels really good when I do it. And rolling rope stuff just feels amazing, and now my shoulders don't hurt, and I am moving more fluidly. And then you've got a few like high-level athletes who are doing rolling rope like publicly all the time. Like Max Heath jumps to mind, like he's always doing it.
Brilliant, yeah.
Cyril Gahn, who's not the world's most popular fighter right now because he just poked the world champion in the eyeball really badly. But probably like the best mover the heavyweight division's ever seen, and he rolls rope in his training. And it's such an accessible practice as well.
Yeah, it is, completely.
But then I think people are like, okay, there is room for it. And yeah, like we're seeing loads of people engaging with rolling ropes, like Kelly Starrett, who's not someone I agree with on most things, but he's got rolling rope stuff. He's the supple leopard guy who does loads of mobility and myofascial release drills. And now he's like, actually, the rope's really kind of cool. Juji Mufu, who's a popular social media guy, like huge bodybuilder, like very strong, gymnast guy, wildly flexible. He loves rolling rope. And as more people adopt it, like the better it gets in terms of people's open-mindedness to engage with new ideas.
And that's the thing. That's people's open-mindedness, isn't it? To be able to engage. But you can't make that happen, and it's just being able to be like, well, this is what I have seen, and I know it works, and my clients enjoy it, so I'm going to keep doing it, and I don't care if you don't like it.
And I'll let you come to it when you're ready for it. That's a question that I get quite a lot. You've probably been here when we've done workshops, and someone's asked like, what do you do when someone comes to you and they're not looking for an alternative model, like they just want to squat, bench, deadlift, or whatever, and I'm like, we squat, bench, deadlift. And like maybe I'll give them an inkling of my perspective, like, just so you know, this isn't what I consider to be the optimal way to train the body if your goals are strength or even muscle building to an extent. There are alternatives that we can do that maybe won't cause so much compression. Most people are pretty open to hearing that. It's the people who are like indoctrinated, who are like, no, I've been squatting for 5 years and I love it. And it's like, okay, good luck with that.
I had a conversation last night with a client that I've been coaching for a couple of years, and we were revisiting deadlift, or have been revisiting deadlift, ready for tomorrow. And and you got that on camera.
I doubt they can see the mosquito. I just plucked a mosquito out of the air like Mr. Miyagi.
It's because he rolls rope, guys.
Yeah, that's it.
And we were doing deadlift, and we're bouncing between conventional and sumo, just because I don't think we'd really visited much conventional before. And I ended up going, why are you doing this apart from tomorrow? Oh, I don't know. I was like, right, okay. Do we need to do this? Like asking the client, like, I don't know. It's like, why do you like it? Well, because I like seeing the numbers. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Then if that's what you like and that motivates you because you can, see your numbers go up, great. But if you're not planning on getting on a platform anytime soon, we're not going to follow a proper, like I say, proper deadlift program. We're not going to follow like
A dedicated
dedicated,
deadlift
yeah, exactly that, a dedicated deadlift program. But if you like it because it feels, oh God, look how much I can pull off the floor and it feels impressive, then absolutely we'll explore it. But she's
And-
fully aware that it's not the way I like to coach anymore.
Sure. And then we also have the perspective that allows us to, when we encounter a problem when we're squat bench deadlifting with clients, to be like, okay, I know why this is now a little bit of a problem, and we can reverse engineer it with the other stuff. And it's so funny because like you take clients through that and then they feel the change that it creates when we unwind that compression and like, oh wow, I wasn't on board to begin with because it's weird.
Yeah.
I actually like it better now.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. One example springs to mind is a client that had come to me and was like, had been coaching previously with a different coach and was like, oh, I've always used heel lifts because I haven't got like the ankle mobility, so I can't get depth in the squat. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And we looked at it, we went away from it, we did some other things, we came back to it, and now
She can just squat easily.
she can squat easily.
Yeah.
And that's the things that I'm like, yeah, this is great, this works, and this is what I've said before, and it's just like not undoing those compensations, but just, well, yeah, it is undoing the compensations, I suppose.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's key to point out, just this point in the conversation, like compensations aren't inherently bad.
No.
Compensations are really useful. They're kind of vital. We all do them. Like from the get-go, your infrasternal angle is a representation of a compensation, because the moment you start breathing and your rib cage needs to expand, no one does that perfectly in 3 dimensions.
No.
So immediately, your first breath on this earth is a compensation pattern. So it's not good, it's not bad. There are some that are appropriate, some that are inappropriate, some that cause wear and tear, some that give a strategic advantage, and some that give a strategic disadvantage if you start extrapolating the task into more dynamic situations.
Yeah.
I've got loads of things that I want to go into now.
Oh God.
I was going to say, okay, so that was one. So we were talking about the compression expansion model in 2A. So I want to talk more about the compression expansion model in 2B. And just like why I've got so much confidence in this model. One, because it's based on the most fundamental principle of how everything in the universe moves. That's a pretty good reason to be
It's great.
yeah,
Great reason.
to be confident in it. But in a practical sense, it's what you alluded to there, which is you'll meet people who can't squat to depth. And they've got full ankle flexion, full knee flexion, full hip flexion, and they're kind of flexible. My mum's an example of this. She can't really sit in a deep squat, but she can do the splits both ways. Like she's wildly flexible, but can't sit into a deep squat. It's like, that's weird. And if you're just from a levers pulleys, like an isolated perspective, there's no explanation for why. And this was one of the things that I noticed early on in my career. I just had like person after person after person who couldn't squat to depth without a heel lift. And I was like, why are so many of these people struggling to hit depth when their ankle mobility is actually fine? I test their ankle mobility and they've got loads of dorsiflexion.
Yep.
And I like doing my little thing where I do my squat with no dorsiflexion. You see me do that?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
So like you just don't need ankle mobility to do a squat, but that's like the only thing that people look at.
Yep.
And then you do, the proof in the pudding is you could stretch your way into doing a squat potentially. I mean, maybe you can't. My mum would be an example of like, that's never worked for her in decades of stretching.
Yeah.
And being super flexible, she still can't do it. But some people can stretch their way into a deep squat. But I don't think that's a good idea. Especially when you can give them like a pressurization drill, like a foam roller hinge or like a spiral hinge or something like that, or a Superman row. And it improves the rotational space in their hip that you can test with like a proxy measure, like a little mobility test, which I don't particularly like, but again, it's a proxy measure. Sometimes they're useful. And then you take them back and they can squat perfectly. And you're like, okay, I've just seen like a 20-degree increase in your range of motion, and we haven't put any of your tissues on a stretch. We haven't done anything apart from pressurize your body differently. And like the proof is just right there. Were you here for my first squat seminar years ago? It was literally like the first few months of us being open.
Maybe. I can't remember.
I was still like somewhat new to the model, I suppose. And I did this as a proof of concept in the squat workshop. And we had like 20 people here, and I was like, man, it would really suck if it didn't work right now.
I know, I think I was.
Yeah. And yeah, so we did this drill, like shifting weight, turning the pelvis, and then loading down with a bit of load and a coil.
Yeah.
And then that person, they picked up like 10 degrees of hip IR on a passive test, and then had loads of squat depth. And we were like, did we stretch anything? It's like, no. Okay, well then explain how that person gained so much range when it's not been available to them for years. So that gives you faith in the model. And yeah, just like I said about running these models in parallel, and just seeing how many things it explains and how many anomalies crop up from the traditional model. How many things that you see where you're like, that just doesn't make sense. And this is a funny experience that I have, like going to competitions and hang out with coaches all day, and like we're not there for a workshop or to talk shop. We're just kind of hanging out. And every time I hang out with a coach, we'll talk a bit about clients, and they'll say something like, oh, I don't know, mate, just people's bodies just make no sense. And I'm just there like, yeah, I guess. Yeah, I just say yeah. But in my head, I'm like, I see people who are unusual, but none of them violate any principles.
Yeah.
So I see people who are like, oh, that's a funny compensation. Oh, this is going to be complicated to unwind. But I don't see anyone that like surprises me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you tend to see trends? So through people's occupation or their lifestyle and things like that?
Interesting. No.
No? Okay.
I think there will be, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. Okay. No, there are definitely times where someone says, oh, I do this thing, and I'm like, right, is this the problem? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, cool. Yeah. The most consistent one is just your activity. And we talked about this a little bit last time about how we tend to over-diagnose people because of what they do as a job. Like, oh, you do a desk job, so you're going to have tight shoulders and you're going to have a kyphosis, and we have to attack it this way. And that's not necessarily true at all. You adapt to your biggest stimulus, and if people are training, then we do see really consistent things. In powerlifting, we see really consistent things. Left sacroiliac joint, right subscap tightness and right trap tension. And then those are kind of the two structural things that people see.
And why is that?
Because of the turn. We'll get into that in another episode.
Okay,
we'll talk about PRI, which is the Postural Restoration Institute, and their influences on my perspective. The differences between left and right, why people are right-handed. We'll talk about that. And the inherent turns of the body and why people compensate the same way. That's a whole other episode.
And we've touched a little bit before, we won't get into it now, but the left hand and professional athletes being left-handed. I'm sure that we've had a conversation about it before,
Why left-handed people are overly represented in elite sport relative to the average population.
Wild.
And we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about why none of those elite athletes are shot putters.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And that was an observation from a client.
Oh, really?
He was like, would that mean that shot putters would never, ever be left-handed? And I was like, yeah, it probably would in principle, but I don't know anything about shot put. So I was Googling, like, are there any good left-handed shot putters? I couldn't find one. And I found an article from a guy who's like, I have coached shot put for 50 years, like an American guy. He's like, I've worked with every Olympian who's ever come through our programs and never seen a left-handed thrower who was any good.
Wow.
Insane.
Crazy.
I say thrower, putter.
Putter.
Left-handed throwers could be okay, but a
yeah.
putter is not going to be left-handed.
Interesting.
Whole nother episode. That's a little teaser for next time. Compression expansion model, finishing it off. That's where we can come back to our notes. So the thing that I sent to you was that compression expansion gives you a different perspective on internal and external rotations. And I think it's so important that practitioners of all sorts are aware that internal rotation, or IR, is not just a shape that you can show or access on a table or like move someone into. IR specifically is a series of shapes that every joint in your body can move towards in order to create pressure. So you need two things for that to happen. You need the space to move into in the first place. So if I'm locked together here, I've got nowhere to IR. I can't IR any further. And if I can't create movement, I can't create any additional pressure, and so I can't produce force. So what you'll see from an activity like powerlifting, which is the most extreme version of IR activity, because it's just maximum force all the time, you'll see that over time, their structures will orient into more external rotation. You'll see everything will move wider, feet will start turning out, and it's because if they stay internally rotated, the moment they try to create more pressure, they've already run out of space.
Yep.
So they have to go into external rotation so they can then re-internally rotate
Yep.
because they're losing space as they do it more.
Yeah.
The more that someone squats, the more hip IR they will lose over time as you test it. But yeah, so it's not just a shape. So it's not like I can't just like lie on the floor or sit on a chair and do an internal rotation test of someone's hip and be like, right, this is a static number. You have 15 degrees of hip internal rotation and that's your situation. It's much more contextual than that. Because again, IR is the shape that you make to create pressure. So you need space and you also need to be able to tolerate that increase in pressure, which can be a really, really profound tissue stimulus on the muscle. And this is what all the glute stuff that we do is. And the reason why people come to us and are like, wow, I have never felt a glute sensation like that, is because the hips you can pressurize more than any other part of the body. You can create massive internal rotation and therefore loads of pressure on the hip. And that's why you've got such a big butt muscle, because it's designed to accommodate all of that pressure. So yeah, you need the space, you need the pressure tolerance. And if you do loads of lifting, you don't have space. If you do loads of stretching, you don't have pressure tolerance.
Yep.
And this is why both of those activity archetypes will limit your overall movement versatility in the long run, because they both inhibit your ability to move into and out of pressure, which is compression expansion, which is movement. It's almost like a circular definition. So an image that I like people to have is that of a bouncing ball. So your body, if it's got good movement capabilities, it should be like a ball that can bounce, which means when it hits the floor, it can compress, it can internally rotate towards itself, and then it can re-expand elastically and create propulsion.
Yep.
If you are a bowling ball, you've got no space to deform into. So you hit the ground and you thud.
Yep.
If you are a deflated beach ball, you've got no tension that allows you to create that spring. So it's two different archetypes, but neither of those balls will bounce, but for different reasons.
Yep.
And we want to be bang in the middle,
The bouncy ball.
the bouncy ball.
Yep.
And so it's just another reason why, like, a barbell back squat long term for an athlete, okay, so we're just actively removing IR from their body. That's not a good thing.
No. Why are professional athletes still doing it?
Why are they still doing it?
Yeah.
Because if you're a strength and conditioning coach, you've sold yourself to the organization as being able to make athletes stronger and more conditioned.
Yeah.
And like I said in our first conversation, we're very good at making athletes more conditioned, very good at making them fitter. So short term and medium term, they'll see a big return on that in every capacity in a professional sport setting. Stronger can be useful, for sure. Most professional athletes are pretty strong in the first place. But you're selling this idea of I'm going to make them stronger. Okay, how are we going to test if they're stronger? Well, I'll take their back squat from 180 to 220. And then you have the proxy measure at the end, which is the squat 1RM, and you just present that to the coach, like, see, look, I made them stronger. There's no way of proving that makes them more effective on the pitch.
Yep.
You can assume it, and sometimes you'll be right, but sometimes you won't be. Because I also think we've all had experiences like this. I know I have, like playing rugby. When I play rugby, there's a good chance at the standard of rugby that I'm or was playing at, there's a good chance I'll have the biggest squat deadlift on the pitch and potentially even the biggest bench, even though I'm not a very good bencher for a powerlifter. I don't think I've ever felt like the strongest player on the pitch in any standard of rugby I've ever played. And that's just, they're two different measures. I mean, for example, like, if you took anyone in the UFC right now, I doubt any of them deadlift more than me.
I wouldn't know. I don't follow UFC, John.
No, but like so John Jones is the greatest fighter of all time.
Yep.
And he did a 250 kilo deadlift. He might have even pulled 600 pounds, but he did like a few years of dedicated weight training to bulk up to be a bigger person.
Yeah.
And you know, he was weighing well over 100 kilos and is an athletic freak and was doing powerlifting training, and I never saw him deadlift more than me.
Interesting.
Does that mean I'm stronger than John Jones? No, no, it doesn't.
Get in the ring, we'll find out.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the cage, I should say.
John Jones, if you're watching this, I'll fuck you up.
I will buy tickets.
So, and again, so like strength is a weird thing. My favorite definition is from Franz Bosch, which is coordination against resistance. And we just think about the resistance thing. So like, how much force can my muscle produce? But the coordination element, if we're talking about anything other than a static test against a dynamometer, or, because even if we're talking about lifting weights, the coordination makes a massive difference. Like I said, if I can deadlift more than John Jones, that doesn't mean I'm stronger than him. I'm just coordinating against that particular resistance profile more efficiently than he is.
Yeah.
And that's only useful for that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't translate to what the sport or activity that you necessarily are doing.
Yeah.
Unless it is powerlifting, but yeah.
And so, yeah, coordination against resistance. And we forget about the coordination aspect of it. And so we talk about elite sprinters being like, oh, well, they need to put a certain amount of force into the floor, so let's make them squat loads. And it's like, well, hang on. When they're sprinting, they're dealing with 10 plus times their body weight on a single foot in like half a second.
Yep.
They're not doing 2.5 times body weight over like a 5-second period on a squat. So we're not really increasing their force producing capabilities in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
If they need to create 11, 12 times body weight in that instant, doing 2, 3, 4 times body weight, which would be an insane squat. No sprinter on earth's doing that.
No.
They're still not really hitting the forces that they need to. So it's not even stimulating from that perspective. It's just a different type of force production.
Yeah.
And I think in the case of a sprinter, the really high forces come from being in the right position at the right time. Everything accumulates, bang, in that instant. Those forces all summate, and not a lot of it, not nothing, but not a lot of it is to do with how much concentric push their muscle can generate.
Yeah. Again, this fascinates me in regards to, like you're saying, strength and conditioning coaches are selling that. I'm selling the strength and the conditioning side of it. But it still amazes me that we are, in 2025, with the amount of money spent in professional sport, football especially, that is maybe got the same, I don't know, I'm talking very generically here, but like they're doing the same things. Have they not been doing the same things for the last 20, 30, 40 years?
And it's funny, right? Because like people, like strength and conditioning coaches who might find their way into listening to this, they might be a bit triggered or whatever, annoyed by what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I've never met a strength coach who isn't critical of other professional team strength coaches. So they're all criticizing them.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of agreeing with them. Like the Barcelona football team put out a thing the other day where they strapped some guys to some really weak bands and they were just kicking the ball back, volleying the ball with resistance bands on their ankles. And it's like, that's terrible.
What's the point?
Dumb.
Yeah.
Like, and again, that's how simplistic the approach is to S&C a lot of the time. Even at the highest level, it's Barcelona, for crying out loud. They're just thinking, right, we do this movement in the game, let's make it stronger. And it comes back to that word. It's like, strength is actually a weird thing. Like, there is general strength, but you can only apply it if you've got a specific, like, coordination pattern that allows you to express it. Because like I said, you'll find really strong people who actually can't lift much weight in the gym.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's also weird, because that's also a very simple movement pattern, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, strength is a lot more subtle than we think, and it's quite elusive. And I think the more time we focus on the coordination aspect, especially the fundamental components of coordination, then we'll get better results across the board. They'll get stronger by accident.
Yeah.
That's what's funny. So here's a fun example of what I mean by coordination against resistance. I had 2 clients back to back. One of them benched, so they're two middle-aged ladies who aren't competing in sport or being powerlifters or anything, but they're training for general strength. and one of them had been benching for a lot longer than the other one, and she was benching about 45, something like that. And the second client was benching just under 35, like 32.5. So that's actually quite a big percentage difference.
Yep.
And then I was doing almost the same session back to back, because this is why it stuck in my head, because the contrast was so obvious and stark. It was interesting to me. It was noteworthy. We did bench, and then we did a cable press. And the lady with the small bench was doing 20 plus kilos on the cable press. And the lady with the 45 kilo bench could barely move 10. And it's like pretty similar muscles being used on the surface of it, but a much more complicated integration pattern requiring tension from the ground, from the foot contact, through the core, quote unquote, and up to our hands. So we needed like a summation of forces, and we needed integrated tension. And the weaker lady was way stronger in that context when we needed only a slightly more complicated move. It's not a really complicated move, you know. It's not like I'm getting her to do an Olympic, like I'm not trying to make her do a snatch. That's really complicated. It's just pressing a cable.
Do you know what, one of our CPD sessions, we did the same, like a similar test, or not, we didn't bench before, but I had probably the smallest bench of the group of people.
I remember now.
Yeah, and then it was the cable push press.
Yes.
And I did it, and everyone was like, that looks so easy. And then
everyone was doing it, and they were all struggling with like 15 kilos.
Yeah,
and then we put you on it, and you just quietly just mumble to yourself, it's too easy. and you put on it like 25, and then we're just moving it still easily. And everyone was like, what?
Yeah.
If this idea of general strength was really, really consistent, you wouldn't see something like that.
No.
The person with the more general strength, with a similar and not super complicated exercise, should always be stronger, especially if the strength differential is massive, percentage-wise. But you don't see it. So general strength, the idea of focusing a general quality into a specific task, it peters out really quickly. And the big distraction about all of this is that elite athletes have good coordination and good motor qualities across a wide range of scenarios. And so they can build general strength with one exercise, and they can express it in another pattern that they've got really efficiently. But it's not the exercise that enabled them to do that. They already had that in the locker, and the exercise has just kind of pushed it a bit further. But I've always been much more interested in what enables someone to bridge that gap. How do we make them into a good athlete in the first place? Rather than making them strong and just kind of hoping that the bits come together. How do we actually make someone more athletic? And for me, that comes down to fundamental integrated coordination, which is gait cycle mechanics, it's throwing mechanics, it's rotation, reciprocation, etc. And this is what we start seeing, is when we start seeing people adapt to that perspective of good movement, they do become strong across the board. And suddenly you give them something completely new, completely different, and they're immediately more effective than the average person out there. And that, for me, that's athleticism. Rather than, you know, oh, I can bench such and such a weight, and now I can train to express that in another thing. How do we cut out the middleman? How do we just make you good at everything all in one go? That's interesting to me.
That is interesting. And much more gen pop. Like, as in, it's much more suitable to the general population.
Rather than building up loads and loads of different specific expressions of strength. How do we get to the core of what's going to give you the most bang for your buck across the most number of scenarios?
Which is what people want. You know, we've got probably similar to, I mean, no, probably not similar to you. You're different clientele, but like a lot of my clients are just general population people that just want to be fitter and stronger. And it is trying to be like, right, what can we do in the one session that we have a week, and that I send you away with a program to get you to build that foundation that creates that, and just gets you moving better. So
I mean, I've got an interesting split, haven't I? Because probably the majority of my clients are Gen Pop, who just like what you just described. But I still have like a heavy dose from the powerlifting background. Where I can then see these long-term trends of, oh, wow, the people who aren't doing the compressive exercises are just getting better at everything really fast. And the people who are squatting and benching and deadlifting, they're having fun, but they're getting stuck and they're getting worse at stuff, especially with the online clients when I see them sort of intermittently. And then I'll just kind of watch how they move, and you do get a different impression. When I work online, sometimes the most interesting information I get from the videos people send me is watching them walk in between exercises.
Yeah.
And just watching how they approach and walk under the bar and start setting up, I'm like, oh, wow, that was riddled with inefficiency and like an impingement and stuff. And then they move beautifully under the bar. And I've worked with a lot of people who have been referred from other physios, and they're like, yeah, I don't know why so-and-so's knees are hurting when she squats, because like the movement's just perfect. And I'm like, that movement's perfect.
Yeah.
All the rest of it, how she walked to the barbell in the
Yeah.
first place, is horrible to me.
And and surely you want to walk better than you squat, right? Like,
Way more important.
way more important for like longevity is the wrong word, but just
Well, that's part of it,
part of it, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, just being able to move better for longer.
Because that's the other funny thing is the squat apologists, let's call them that. They're like, the thing they always go back to is, I want to be able to stand up off the toilet when I'm 90. And it's like, okay, well, if you can still walk really well, you probably won't have a problem with that.
Be right. Yeah.
But I've seen people on the powerlifting platform, and I'm not saying this isn't cool, but I do think it can be counterproductive. I've seen people on the powerlifting platform, late 60s, 70s, maybe 80s sometimes. I think there was one guy in the BDFPA who was in his 90s,
Wow.
and they could barely drag themselves onto the platform. But you put a bar on their back with like still quite heavy weight,
Yeah.
and they can go up and down. And it's like, cool, that's, you know what, for that person, that leg strength is still good.
Yeah.
It's still productive. It's still going to mean you're more resilient against the fall. But it's not the best you could be doing. And I would rather be good at still walking around when I'm 90, still doing thousands of steps a day,
Yep.
rather than standing up off the toilet probably 10, 20 times when I'm 90 per day. But the fact that we ignore that we do 10,000 steps a day, and we just think, oh no, walking self-organizes. People can walk, so it's fine. It's like, yeah, people can squat. It doesn't mean they do a good job of it.
Yeah.
People don't do a good job of walking in the most part.
Yeah.
And I think that all goes back to being in school. We make kids sit down for
Ever.
5, 6, 7, 8 hours a
Yeah.
day, like straight away.
Yeah. We won't get into school. We'll be here for a while.
Yeah. Whip your note out.
Whip your nude out.
Yeah, I think that was the point. Yeah, the IR is not just a shape that you can demonstrate on a table test. It is a holistic skill that involves joint space and it involves pressure tolerance. And we talked about this the other day, how if someone doesn't have a broad perspective or an inclusive perspective of what internal rotation is, it makes it very hard for me to have like a professional conversation about internal rotation. Because I work with a lot of people who've got other coaches or other physios that they're working with, and they've come to me just for like a top-up or an add-on or a little tweak or something.
Yeah.
And when they ask me to provide notes to give to their other physio or to their other coach, I'm like, okay, I can write down what I've seen, but from their perspective, it would probably just sound like bullshit.
Yeah.
Because I can say like, this client does not have good hip internal rotation, and a physio might read that and be like, oh, I just tested it yesterday and they've got 45 degrees, so like they've got plenty of IR, so this coach doesn't know what he's talking about. It's like, no, I mean a different thing when I say internal rotation.
Yeah.
There's a difference between having it available and using it. And there's a difference between being able to like demonstrate that shape and actually achieve it through relative motion within the joint. Because you can create twists all over the place. It doesn't mean that one place you're trying to assess is actually able to open up and decompress. I mean, I've done that example, haven't I? You can kind of crunch people into a position through loads and loads of tension.
Yeah.
Or we can create space and then they can move really easily.
Yeah.
Which again is another reason why I've got faith in the compression expansion model, because it allows you to create really easy changes for people without having to yank on tissues to make people more flexible.
Yeah.
I think flexibility is one of the biggest red herrings in the fitness industry.
Yeah.
Because it makes people move worse, even if they gain the flexibility they're looking for
Yeah.
in the long run.
Yeah. I often get like, I'm really flexible, but I can't do this.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, because that flexibility doesn't serve you
it
at
doesn't
all.
do anything. Yeah.
It's the only motor quality that we recognize that isn't correlated with better health outcomes. So if you're stronger, fitter, faster, more powerful, can jump further, whatever, you've got better health outcomes predicted, not guaranteed, but predicted across the board. If you're more flexible, great.
Cool.
That's it.
You can touch your toes.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean jack shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, yeah, we talked about how the straight lines are arbitrary, and we use joint actions for that. So we talked flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, how those things don't really exist. It's just all internal and external rotation just on different lines.
Yep.
And then the planes of motion are just kind of the other end of that, which is funny because when I teach like personal trainers or people who are becoming personal trainers, and I'm like mentoring them through the qualification, the thing they find most confusing over and over and over again is planes of motion. It really, really is a sticking point for people.
It just doesn't make, well, it doesn't make sense, but yeah.
And the frustrating thing is I'm like, it doesn't need to make sense
No.
because they don't exist,
Yeah.
because like it's just not relevant.
Yeah.
So the example for how integrated we are compared to these planes of motion is that your movement within an individual plane is incredibly limited. So if I stand up straight, if I'm in the sagittal plane, I can't really go anywhere. I can kind of lean forward like Michael Jackson, and then that's it. But if I want to take a step forward, I can't do that until I shift my weight sideways onto one foot.
Yep.
Even a tiny bit, I have to access
Yep.
the frontal plane, quote unquote.
Yep.
And then I can't then move forward until I turn back the other way.
Yep.
So just to take one step forward, I'm sagittal, I'm frontal, I'm transverse immediately, just to do the most basic function that a human body can do.
Yep.
And so we're already in 3 dimensions, unavoidably. And this idea that we then need to categorize things as sagittal, frontal, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
is so silly. Because you don't.
No, you don't. No.
And again, like, it's this idea where the model sounds complicated, but it simplifies things in the long run. Because if you do a 3-dimensional movement in your program, you now don't have to do what a PT has to do to pass their exam and be like, this is a frontal plane exercise, this is a sagittal plane, this is a transverse plane exercise.
Yeah.
And even the way they define those things is completely pointless. So like a lot of them define like a chest fly as a transverse plane exercise,
Yep.
because that's what's moving in terms of the shoulder joint is kind of orienting through what could be perceived as a transverse plane. But what's different to that than doing a lateral raise or a frontal raise? Like, there's no meaningful difference. It's just a completely arbitrary thing. So if we're going to use those planes for a discussion, it should be about what the center of mass is doing. So I think of that as a purely transverse movement, and I would think of that as a sagittal movement. That being twisting and that being like leaning forward, like hinging or whatever, just flexing my spine. So again, useful for having conversations, for categorizing stuff, not useful for prescriptions or for diagnostics or for anything along those lines, or just interacting with reality.
Yep. Yeah, and again, I see it online, I see it on social media, and it's like, this exercise does this because it's moving in this way and it benefits that. And I'm like, does it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's too reductionist.
Yeah, there we go.
I saw one the other day that's really good. It was, and I'm not a sucker because I never expect them to be good, but I'm belligerently too open-minded because I'm always like, oh, maybe there'll be some good here.
Yeah.
I see so many like Instagram ads, and it's someone making a lot of these points and saying like, is your flexibility routine not working? Are you getting stiffer? Are you still tight even though you're stretching and foam rolling and blah, 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 blah? And then they'll invoke some like ancestral things like, or the one I watched the other day was, this tribe in Cambodia do this farming practice and I learned from them how to unlock the secrets of mobility. And then like you dig a little deeper and it's just stretching reinvented. It's just the exact same thing. It's like, now we're going to do the same stretches, but we're going to hold it for 10 seconds and do this tribal chant. And now it's going to unlock all of our mobility.
Start chanting in the corner, John, I'll be worried.
Maybe there's something to it.
Oh, God.
Belligerently open-minded, but with the constant effort to not be naive.
Yeah, for sure.